Podcasts are all done. It's after dark. Nate left. Eammon still here. I want to start with this. So part of my job, I'm the only one that I think does it at my job. I have one of these. It's a mini.
What the fuck? What the fuck is that?
It's a mini composition notebook. So I write shit down so I don't forget.
Don't forget that you have a tiny notebook in your fucking pocket.
Yeah, I keep it right in my pocket. So I write shit down. It helps. That's why I'm the best.
Eammon!
That's why I'm the best.
He wonders why no one talks
why
to him at
I'm
work.
the best at what I do. So I bought from Amazon, and I don't like it.
Those
because
are
there's
80s kids.
Yeah, because there's no like pre-cut to where you can rip the page out.
No, because it's a marble-bound notebook.
I'm not done. Shut the fuck up. Let me get to my point. So I usually go for the Wexford mini composition notebook. You can only get it at Walgreens. I went the other day to all of the Walgreens in the South Towns on the hunt for this. Turns out, you know where I got to get these?
Where?
Tonawanda. I got to go to a place where they don't read. They don't know how to read and write in Tonawanda because where they have these in stock that I can use them at work. I got to go to a town that doesn't know how to read or write to get this stuff. So, After Dark, welcome. That's my start to After Dark. We all got old fashions.
We're coming in hot.
I made old fashions.
Hey, cheers.
Now, all of ours, we have pecan syrup in them. Because we're...
Is that the nuttiness that I take? God damn, it really does make a difference.
It's the cheeks. It's the cheeks.
Yeah, it's... The nut syrups are the way to go. I got chestnut syrup upstairs, walnut syrup, pecan syrup, all the nuts. Nuts to you.
Oh, all right.
Composition book.
Where do we... Do we just piggyback off of last week? Eammon, your take on Tucker Carlson.
He's just a fine...
He's a fine individual.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He's a great American.
Fantastic takes.
He has some of the best. Hey, he has some of the best takes. The best takes.
Only has the best in mind for all of humanity.
Jesus Christ. We're all circling the drain to hell. That's the reality of things. In the interim, Chris, I think I have something here. No, we're going to talk about Chris tonight. This show never focuses on the producer. Never. Eammon, you've been listening for how long?
A couple years.
Okay.
American years.
Okay, a couple American years. You have never been the focal point of a Q&A.
Do you want to talk... I brought this story up to Jessica, I think, at the draft.
Oh, no.
This is... check this out.
Oh, no.
This is when I lived in Atlanta. I was dating this girl for... We're maybe like 3 or 4 weeks in.
Was she the one that you were on the boat with in the green, like, bikini top with the huge yams?
Drawing a blank. Drawing a blank on that one.
I'll show it to you.
You'll have to show it to me. No, I went on... So she was over... This is when I lived with my brother in Pine Lake. Now, if you know Georgia and... Where the hell is Pine Lake is west... No, east of Atlanta. It's like a small community. It legitimately has one traffic light and its own police station. So if you go down Rockbridge Road in like Decatur, you could just...
Which no one will do.
Yeah, you could just go by that one traffic light and you could get pulled over by Pine Lake and you're like, what the hell is Pine Lake? Never heard of it. So it's when I was living in Pine Lake, my brother had a buddy over and it was... told me, he's like, hey, we're going to go get frozen yogurt. You and your lady want to come? And we're like, yeah, sure. Now, at Pine Lake, you have to walk, like the garage is the basement. So you have to walk up the stairs to like the actual front door. So we're leaving, walking down the stairs, and this woman that I was dating thought that the last step was the ground. And so she took a misstep and hurt her foot, still went and got frozen yogurt because they were about to close. It's like, get up, what are you doing? We're going to get frozen yogurt.
Get off the ground.
So-
We're going to get yogurt.
Yeah, so we go get frozen yogurt.
Jesus Christ.
We go get frozen yogurt. We come back. She's still complaining about her foot, that it hurts. She can't even put weight on it. So Decatur, Georgia, is a predominantly black neighborhood. So I took her to the ER in a predominantly black neighborhood. So we're in the triage, and the nurse, the black nurse, we're the only white people in the hospital, in the ER. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Chris is really racially charging us.
Yeah, I know. It's on a Friday night. So we go into triage. We talk to this black nurse, and she goes, well, what happened? I go, well, we were going to get frozen yogurt, and she thought that the last step was the ground, and she hurt her foot. No, I'm not even joking. She goes, no, I'm not lying. That's what happened. If you're trying to insinuate that I shoved her down the stairs, why would I even be here? Why would I even be here? She kept the whole time going,
Yeah, she's eyeing you up going, yeah, you look like a predator.
Yeah.
I see you.
If I shoved her down the stairs, I
She's
wouldn't
probably
be
thinking,
here.
I'll fuck you up too. I'd fuck you up right now.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And I was at the ER with her until like 3 o'clock in the morning. She had ended up having a broken foot.
Oh.
And she looked at you the whole time like, yeah, okay. All right, yeah. She fell.
Yeah, well, we broke up we stopped seeing each other like a month later.
Yeah, because
It didn't get off.
fell.
It didn't get off the ground.
Here's what I love. You told that incredibly borderline racist story. It's not. He's not trying to be racist, but realistically,
It's ethically factual.
here's what I know. Eammon is the actual most interesting man in the world. He's got stories. Here's one of the things he told me about during the draft this year. Eammon, tell me about the old man and you at your bar in St. Louis.
Talking about Cookie Gilchrist guy?
Yeah, Cookie Grill Chris. Okay, first of all, identify that for people, because they've heard you get drunk and yell it on a podcast once.
Yeah.
Well, what bar is this?
It was a couple bars. So I helped start the St. Louis Bills Backers Club back in the day.
Eammon, one of the most interesting men in the world.
So I moved to St. Louis in 2004, and there were no... Like, St. Louis really sucks for sports bars that are open Sunday. Which is...
Which flies in the face of...
it's a thing. And you met my friend Tad.
Yes.
So him and I were both transplants. I came from the East Coast. He came from the West Coast of St. Louis, working in advertising. And we became buddies because nobody just moves to St. Louis and nobody becomes friends with you really fast. And him and I like, hey, I don't know anybody. You want to watch sports this weekend? And we're trying to find... We like would go to sports bars, closed. Had to go out to like, what's the equivalent here? Like Williamsville or Clarence. We had to go to like the Clarence of St. Louis to find a sports bar open. It was Ozzy Smith. And
Okay.
it was 30 minutes away from the city. And there was me watching the Bills game, and there was one other old guy in a Bills sweatshirt. And every week we were there, got to know him, and he was from Tonawanada.
Of course, from Tonawanada. Chris, all roads lead back to Tonawanada.
Yes.
And so his name was Bill, and me and Bill just watched the Bills games together. And him and I went home, and I was like, I'll go on the Bills website. You could register where your Bills Backers Club was. This was 2004. And it was the Bledsoe year, the one we lost to Pittsburgh the last game. And I registered us, and then we had all these business travelers come to Ozzy's, and we grew that thing from me and Bill we got the thing to 150 people within about 5 years. And you get people from all walks of life, all business, weird people. We had doctors, lawyers like Mark Smith.
Look at Mark Smith.
And there was a few of these old guys who had ended up in St. Louis somehow or another from Tonawanda. They were all Tonawanda.
They're all... Hey, guys, just so you know, like where most old people migrate to Florida, if you live in Tonawanda, you will eventually migrate to St. Louis.
So there was this one dude, and his name was John. Real loud. Like, he's the dude at the edge of the bar everyone hates.
It's like Drew.
Yeah, like an old
Where you're
version of
headed.
me.
It's where you're headed.
It's like looking down the mirror. You're like, I've already seen this guy.
He would call a taxi to bring him to the bar, and then try to beg somebody to drive him back home.
See, I don't beg.
He was one of those guys.
I'll walk before I do that.
And he would always sit next to you, and at least 3 times a game, he'd elbow you and say, hey, remember Cookie Gilchrist? And he would compare whoever was playing to Cookie Gilchrist every week, 3 times a game. And that was his thing. Then we had to kick this guy out of the club, the Kevin Everett game, because when Kevin Everett went down, he was shouting for him to get up, calling him names, all that stuff.
No.
So we had to kick John out of the group, and then he came groveling back, he came right back to his Cookie Gilchrist routine. So that's why I always talk about Cookie.
Here's a good Bills backers story. So Bills backers of Atlanta, this is when we were at Cheyenne Grill in Buckhead. It was every year we did a Buffalo tailgate. So if we played like a 4 o'clock game, get there at noon, we'll have all the Buffalo food favorites, $20, all you can drink, have all the food, all this nonsense.
$20 all you can drink?
Yeah, something like that.
I would have taken them for everything.
So I met this girl at one of the tailgates. She was like a regular. I would always see her there, but I hadn't spoken to her. And so we just got into a situation where we were having a conversation. Where are you from in Buffalo? I'm from here, yada, yada, yada. Turns out her high school prom date was my buddy from elementary school, Dave Frigiletti. And so we got to talking about that. And then by the halftime, this girl, I legit saw her flip a table in the bar. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I never thought I'd see a woman in a bar flip a 6-top table.
Do you still have her number?
I never had her number.
Hey, I joke. Internet, don't go wild with this. Obviously, I'm happily married. It's weird to me that you both have had the expat experience. Like, that's the thing to me. Like, if there's anything that we can address in this show right now, right here, you both have lived the life of a Bills fan who stepped outside of Buffalo. I've never had to. Everywhere I go, I get to be a lunatic Bills fan, and you don't have to deal with that.
You know who would show up
like,
to...
everyone's used to that. There's a million guys like me who know less about football than I do, who are out there in bars every single weekend, just making everybody's day miserable. And instead, you guys ventured out into the wild blue yonder, ended up in St. Louis, and where else have you lived?
Virginia. I was known as Bill's guy at the bar. That's just what they put on my receipt all the time. They didn't know who I was. I was just the guy who watched the Bills games.
Didn't you see the one guy was like, he's like, I see you. You're like, there's this old guy who no one would talk to, and he looked at you and he's like, you got that hate.
That was the Raiders guy. So I gave up on the Bills Backers Club because they kept going too far west because the Tonawanada people didn't want to come into the city. And I lived in the city. So I used to go to this place called Weber's. Me and my buddy Cooper, he's a Packers fan. We're such regulars. We always had the Bills and Packers on this certain TV. And then the Chiefs Backers Club came in there, and they got good. Papa Chief took over. And Papa Chief was always confused when I wore a red Bills shirt. Despite me going there for 20 years, every time I wore a red shirt, he'd come up and look at the logo and then get disappointed. Oh, that was the...
Try again.
No, I look at they got caught on camera.
Yeah, I did.
Chris
Boom.
finally dropped one.
No, that was a horrible throw.
But anyway, this bar was next to a retirement home.
Oh, no. What?
So you had a lot of alcoholic dudes who would just walk over on Sundays and hang out all day.
I'm not going to lie. If I was in a retirement home, there is a bar will inevitably be my retirement home. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I like those guys. I'm like, yeah, I could see myself doing this.
Yes! I see them and I go, you know what? Your life doesn't seem that bad. Yeah, just dodder around.
He just drinks Bud Selects.
You kill time until you can get to the bar, and then you go home.
Yep.
And you deal with whatever your life is after the fact.
So the guy became a Raiders fan just because he hated the Chiefs people so much. He just wanted to be an antagonizing guy. And he was just an angry old dude who was kind of cool with some weird... He just knew he was full of stories, but he wasn't going to tell you. And he just drank his Bud Selects. And it was the Kyle Orton game against the Raiders, and if we lost, we were out of the playoff race. And it was like 4 o'clock, a dreary December day. And it was pretty empty, and I sat next to him because they had the game on for him. And he's like, I see you in here all the time. I like you. You hate your team. Because I was just sitting there bitching about Kyle, and
he could smell it on you where he was like, I know a hater when I see one.
He's like, all these assholes come in here, think their team is good. I like how you hate your team. So from then on, he was always friendly to me.
Chris, that right there. Tell me that doesn't define what sports fandom is. You're like, look, there are very few people who get to raise the golden chalice all of the time. There are more of us who are just mad at this thing that we love, but we hate it. Yeah. We're mad at the fact that we enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like when you talked about teaching your kids to be Bills fans. I warned Bridget. I was like, I don't want to put this on you.
Yeah.
Because this is not easy.
I don't want my children to grow up with this by default.
It's amazing how far Bridget's come along from not being a football fan at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like flipping somebody from being a Democrat to Republican.
It's weird, right? Like, there's a weird feeling there. Here's what I know. The day that it all changed for me with Bridget, your wife, is when we were sitting in the cab of my truck together for the end of the Minnesota Vikings game. And she goes, no, and I'm gripping the steering wheel, and she goes, no, look, it's going to happen. And then Josh throws that pick, and she hugged me, and she was just like, I finally understand why. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it. Like, now I get it why you're so destroyed all the time.
Yeah.
And then she got out of the truck, and I just sped off. Yep. And then I went home. I went home after that game. And my new neighbors. Now, this was what, late November?
It was November 13th. Tad was here.
Okay, so it was
the flagpole.
So it was November, the tadpole.
Yep.
As it will forever be known, the tadpole. So I get home and I'm unloading the truck, and my neighbors decide that that's the first night that they need to come introduce themselves to me. So like, hey, we live next door. It's nice to meet you. I am not in the mood to speak to another human being. Yeah. I'm not. I'm unglued. I'm unhinged. This is a bad time. Mm-hmm. I didn't cuss. I didn't scream. But the one thing that I did that I think I'm going to have to spend a portion of this summer making up for is the lady looked at me and she goes, well, we're your neighbors. We live next door. And she stuck her hand out to shake my hand. And I didn't take it. And instead I looked at her and I go, what do you want, a cookie? What do you want from me? And her husband both just turned tail and ran. Because I was yelling and throwing things into my garage.
It was a long day.
It was a bad day. Yeah. So then, during a record blizzard in Buffalo, New York, I'm snowblowing my driveway and I'm snowblowing the sidewalk in the aftermath. And I try waving to them, and they won't make eye contact with me. And I was like, well, they're mad at me.
It's ruined. It's ruined.
But hey, listen, Chris, if there's anybody who can burn a relationship to the ground and resurrect it, it's this guy.
I don't buy that for a second.
Well, what it is I have some contrition. You've just never seen it because I'm never sorry for any of the bad things that I say or do to you.
No.
Guys, can we all agree that we're friends because we've all suffered?
Yeah.
We all have like a shared suffering, and that's what brought us here to this. Mm-hmm. Chris, true or false? The thing that attracted you to me was the way I flipped out over football.
Yeah. The idea of the podcast didn't come till July of 2014.
Yep.
When I saw Robert Kelly at Helium, and he had promotional posters for his YKWD podcast, which I listened to yesterday at work. He had Tim Dillon on.
Tim Dillon's amazing.
It was fantastic because Bobby had asked him about, well, what if the Fox News came to you with, hey, we want you to take Tucker's position. And then Tim Dillon went in on this bit of like real world news and then the problems he would have at a restaurant. It was phenomenal. But yeah, Bobby Kelly was here in 2014. It was the first time I saw him ever, and he had promo posters for his podcast. And he explained it to me as think of a radio show that you can just download on your own time.
And then Chris came to me and goes, hey, you're a drunken asshole that I can put behind a microphone, and I can make a portfolio.
So he was a talent scout.
Yeah, it took over a year to get it done because Drew was working days, and I was working second shift. Get this, Eammon. Early in my chicken wing dip making ability, so Drew was going to have a Super Bowl party. I wasn't going to be there, so his old job was on my way to work. So I was like, it's a Friday. I drop off chicken wing dip. I go into his office and I speak to the receptionist. And I go, yeah, I'm looking for Drew Gear. And she's like, there's no one here by that name. And I go,
she was also older than dirt.
I was like, I'm positive Drew Gear works here. And she was like, no. And she's like, I looked it up in the computer. No one here by that name. So then I called you, and you came out to the front desk, and she goes, oh, Andrew. You didn't think that Drew derived from the name Andrew?
There were a lot of moments where I realized that company was going down. That was one of them. I was like, this company's going to fail. And right there is part of the reason. Okay. So, out of this, we all have a little bit of hate. We all have a little bit of angst. We've all lived a little bit of... I don't know. Chris, you used to hang out at what's the bar that were you in Marietta?
You mean our Bills backers bar was Cheyenne Grill?
The Cheyenne Grill.
Sounds like Cisco Foods.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
hey, used to come into our bar to watch games with us was world-renowned bodybuilder and professional wrestler Lex Luger.
Oh, until he shoved his wife down the stairs.
Well, he didn't push Elizabeth.
Allegedly.
We don't
want to get sued here.
He didn't push Miss Elizabeth down the stairs. He just supplied her drugs.
Oh, good. So he's not culpable. Great.
No.
Wonderful.
But I'll tell you this: how I made one of my best friends was through being a Bills fan. My friend Cooper in West Virginia. We were in journalism school together. I didn't have a lot
journalism school.
Yeah,
on tap.
I was at Marshall. Had theater appreciation with Randy Moss in the mornings.
Appreciation.
Randy Moss was there the first day of class. Had his Oakleys on, feet up.
Yeah, didn't show up for another class.
No, that was the only one he showed up for.
Still got a grade.
And so I had this class.
Shocker.
I had this class, and this guy Cooper was in there who just recited South Park stuff. This was 1997, 98. He just said South Park lines like beefcake all the time, and he found out I was a football fan, and the Bills were playing the Dolphins that night, and he's like, he was 4 years older than me because he was in the Army. And he's like, I can buy a 6-pack of Killians if you give me like $3.13. That's how we did money back then. I was like,
that's how we did money.
Like we were down to the penny, and I was like, all right, I don't have any food. Okay, let's do it. And I went over to his apartment, and we had our 6-pack of Killians. I gave him his $3.13, and I'm like, you got anything to eat? And he had Chex Mix cereal. That's all he had. Chex Mix cereal. So I got my Bruce Smith jersey on. We're watching the game on a little TV. And I can't watch the game and keep picking out of the cereal box with my hand. He didn't have any bowls. So I'm like, I just slouched down and put all the cereal on my stomach so I can just eat it this way. And I'm doing that, and it was getting near the end of the game, and I had all this cereal on me, Achilles in hand, and John Holisek made the interception to save that game. And I just roared up, and Chex Mix cereal went everywhere. And he's like, we're going to be good friends. As drunk as we could be on 3 Killians with each other. And to this day, yeah, one of my best friends.
To this day, Cooper. I've met Cooper. I've met his wife. Like, you guys are two. You're like Chris and I, who there's a certain amount of like, I hate this dude, but I love this dude.
Oh yeah,
there's a fight there.
It's like Drew. It's like our friendship, except it's the liberal version.
Hey, Cooper's dad's a minister. I don't know.
Hey, here's what I know. Chris, you and I, we fight, but we fight the same way, right? Like, you and I use the same, like, we are the Friars Club roast. You and I think about things the same way. We have no emotional attachment to anything. I'm dead inside. People think I joke when I say that, but I don't have many emotions.
Yeah, Eammon, you probably heard it a couple weeks ago when we had Doug on, where I threw in the pre-recording, where Drew and Doug were talking about divorce and relationships, saying, hey, what are we recording in this room? The Rockpile Report or the Steve Wilkos show? What the fuck are we doing here? Let's press record.
Was that inspired by Springer's death?
No, this was pre-Springer's death.
Pre-death? It's almost like we caused it.
Wow.
But hey, if anyone needed to go, it's that fucking guy. Listen, you've lived too long. You don't need to be here anymore. Also, you could say that about any of us.
Yeah. That's why we drink.
That's why we drink.
Speaking of drinks.
Because it could be tomorrow.
Speaking of drinks, Drew, as we wrap this up, because we're at about a half hour here, I will tell you that these old fashions that I made, we all have pecan syrup in them. Eammon and I have Maker's Mark in ours.
Oh, what'd you make in mine?
You have a bourbon that is 61.5% alcohol by volume. So,
is this why I'm having trouble talking?
Probably.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right. I understand it now. The joke's on me. Woo. Hey, listen. Oh, you showed me.
Spiraling.
Woo. Here's what I'll say. That's a great cocktail. The fact that I couldn't taste the booze. See?
Yeah.
There it is.
It's happening.
The fact that I couldn't taste the booze in that, you're a cocktail chef.
If this was a Sheraton hotel bar, that's a $19.99 cocktail.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying. Now,
what I'll say is, we have all had this shared experience of we're fans of this team and sometimes we're mad at it. High, low, whatever. You two have the shared experience of being outsiders and yet you've pulled friends into this group.
Yeah.
Now Cooper's a dude.
Yeah.
I've met Cooper.
He's coming up next month.
He'll be here next month.
Yep. Come to a game next year, too.
It's going to be a thing. Chris, what is it about us that makes us sticky? Like, what is it about this? What is it about this Bills fandom that makes things...
What it is, it's the 6 degrees of separation or less that you find when you go to a Bills backers bar and you meet a woman that went to prom with somebody you were friends with from elementary school, and then they flip a table,
but
like
see,
a 6-top table right in the middle of the bar.
But what is it that makes this thing special that it transcends state borders, counties, fandom? You're like, regional fandom should transcend this, and yet here we are. And now Cooper's coming.
Yep. Tad's coming. We would have had more visitors apart from the apocalyptic weather last year.
Well, yeah.
But I think it's because this it's not about the sport. It's not just about sports. That's what I think makes the biggest difference. Even if we lose, we're still going to have a good time, and people are more genuine than you'd expect. I will say I went to Chicago this year. We were in Chicago when we were playing the Patriots road game this year, and I went to a Backers bar up there. I was really surprised to see Bills fandom as a badge of coolness. Freaked me out. Never seen that. All my growing up and living outside, being a Bills fan was like, you're a weirdo, but I guess you're cool. These people were like flaunting that they were Bills fans in a way that like made them fashionable. Never seen that before. So that's like a new era happening of Bills fandom is like a positive thing. I don't know how to take it.
I want to be mad about it,
I'm
but
curmudgeon-y.
well, exactly. Because listen, we are Gran Torino.
Yeah.
Or at least I am. Nothing against Asian people, just the idea that you stay the fuck off my lawn. And yet, here we are talking about now all of a sudden it's cool to be a Bills fan. And yet, Chris, you just described a generation where you got to see a woman flip a table for the first time.
Beautiful.
How many chicks are throwing shit in bars now?
They're taking
not
cute
a lot.
selfies. And like
They're taking selfies. They're trying to be...
where I feel like I'm dragging a cinder block behind me of all this baggage.
Yes, exactly. It's weird. And yet we've reached a crossroads in terms of fandom where the old guard, you, me, Chris, have met the new guard of these people who are now happy to be Bills fans.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's almost like they have no shame.
Yeah.
It's wild, and I can't wait to see what happens this season with it and where that yields. Like, how long are those people going to hang around?
I don't know. I don't know if they have the... If we are going to do what we always do, let's see what happens in about 5 years.
Yeah, as long as I keep telling you to wrap this shit up.
I know. Chris, you are trying to end the show, and I won't let you.
Exactly.
Turn the camera on yourself.
That is why we're stopping Rockpile Report After Dark right now. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with another episode next week. Good night.